Right. It is Thursday, and I said I'd be here, and I am here, which is good. That means I've made two in a row. I'm gonna clap myself on the back. What's up, sexy slave? Um, I'm excited a little bit about tonight's topic. Right. I'm gonna jump in. I know nobody's here yet, but I do record these, so I don't want just a big dead space on it. So I'm gonna get kind of right into it. Excuse me. The topic for tonight is romanticizing BDSM and kink. That's a real problem. Watching for that line between fantasy and reality and how to keep it real in real life. That is a challenge that I think we all face throughout our um, journey in BDSM, kink, alternate lifestyle, power exchange dynamics, because it's real easy, right? It's real easy to get caught up in the fantasy of what we have in our mind versus what is the reality of what we're living in life. And so that's kind of what I want to touch base with this evening. And for anyone who, obviously does not catch a live, these are recorded. They're put up on the Free the Kink wall. They're recorded over on the Monap, and they're also on the Free the Kink YouTube. So, romanticizing BDSM and kink. You know, I follow a Korean philosophy. This is a good way. I'm gonna give a couple examples here, different things. I follow Korean philosophy, and anyone who has just brushed up against the world of Koreans, most of them have a very skewed view of what a Korean philosophy really is, right? Because there have been so many people who have read the fantasy book and have taken, well, 37 fantasy books, but have taken that and tried to duplicate it word for word in real life. And that is just not possible. It's kind of like 50 Shades of Grey, right? And I will tell you, I love that 50 Shades of Grey came out. And why? Not because it portrayed our lifestyle in this, right way. It's a movie and it's a fantasy, but it did give, the community, it gave BDSM an alternative lifestyle. It put it on the map in the mainstream. Okay. Now, like I said, I don't obviously approve of the anyone trying to live that fantasy, but that's one example of realistically or an unrealistic version of what a power exchange dynamic looks like. You find the same thing when you watch when you have people talk about adult films, right? Everyone should at least know that adult films, that's what they are. They're films. They're all kinds of film tricks and camera tricks that goes on in adult entertainment videos, and that is just not really, you know, not going to happen in real life. I always, the adult films are entertainment, not education, but you can use them for inspiration. That's what I always say. But in a world filled with all these romantic comedies and fairy tales, oh my God, the social media, right? I mean, Jesus, there's so many memes about dominance and submissives. And if you were really to try to build your own dynamic, whether that be a long term power exchange or a short term, scene partner, if you try to base any of that on the fucking social media memes that are out there, you're just destined to have a heartbreak. Someone said The Secretary is another good one. It's fantasy now, absolutely, but a damn great movie, right? And for me, another great thing because it gives exposure. But it's important that we all take the time uh, in our own lives, in our own dynamics, in our own relationships to understand the very significant difference between the fantasy and the reality. Uh, the biggest problem when it comes to romanticizing the lifestyle in any way, shape, or form is because it makes it look effortless. It makes it look like it's just some magic wand comes along, boom, you're in a dynamic and it's all beautiful rainbows. And that's just absolute bullshit. We know it's bullshit. And while undoubtedly, look, power exchange dynamic that I have with the Kinky Smurf is one of the most beautiful things. It's been one of the most transformative experiences for me personally, has growing into being a better man as a whole, being a better person as a whole. And I I really contribute the path that I'm on to trying to be the best possible honorable man that I can be to my power exchange relationship. But in this world of fake just shit, it is not easy. It's not effortless. It takes a lot of work, okay, to be able to make it sustainable. That commitment and that dedication is it's way beyond what you see in the movies. It's way beyond what you read in a book or a poem or a story or, God forbid, like I said, some damn meme that you come across on social media. It requires a ton of hard work and effort if you want it to be lasting. And you guys know what I'm talking about. From Cinderella's glass slippers to the Disney princess narrative, we all grew up with these stories that perpetuate the idea that love or how relationships of any kind, it's something that just merely happens effortlessly. um, you know they 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 rarely portray the reality of the compromise and the communication, the perseverance, the mental, the physical, the emotional grit that it takes, these essential components of any successful relationship. And we consume so much of these fantasy narratives, we start to internalize these notions that these things are easy, that a power exchange dynamic is going to be easy and it's going to be devoid of any challenges that may arise because, hey, it's just going to be so perfect. And that's just not the facts. And we all know that's not the facts, but it's very easy for us, especially for folks who are new and the only real exposure they have had is what they've seen on Pinterest or Instagram and these perfect little snapshots that don't really exist. You know, um, it's because of social media. I think that the romanticization of everything exists. I mean, if you're in business, right, or you're an entrepreneur, you know what it's like on Instagram. You got everyone sitting in front of a private jet and riding by in a McLaren, knowing that they just jumped in front of these things. They don't own them. There isn't that many McLarens out there. As many pictures are on Instagram. Everything is romanticized on social media. Everything I think is just really completely fake on social media. They show these perfect little dominants and these perfect little submissives, and they're always in these beautiful exotic little scenes that never have any issues, and they have these rituals that never falter. Look, I have a slave that is absolutely hands down, and I'm not trying to be just because it's mine. I mean, probably the best there ever was. But there's still times when things aren't perfect. We have this thing, we have a morning ritual. And when I'm not there, I travel a lot for work. When I'm not there, it's still required to go down. A video has to happen, sent to me by a certain time. And you don't think that ever gets disrupted? Goddamn kids banging at the door, fucking leaks in the pipe, this, that, other thing. That's because that's real life. Hello, that's real life, right? Um, and social media and all of the things that we see every day, these things are curated to give us a glimpse into unrealistic lives, unrealistic expectations, and they make a lot of people believe that these dynamics are just picturesque at all times, and that's just not the case. And we, as people, even I look, I'm sitting here telling you guys these things, and yet I still have fallen victim to that myself. I put a lot of unrealistic expectations on my slave from time to time. And even I, the asshole that I am, sometimes have to look back and say, dude, what are you doing? You gotta rein that shit in, bro. So the reality of the effort that we have to put into dynamics in contrast to this, the idealized portrayal of love and relationships and BDSM and power exchange is substantial, and we have to really focus on some of the reasons that we need to. What are the things that we really that they never talk about, right? Um, in the fairy tales, they don't talk about communication. They don't talk about effectively communicating and how that's the cornerstone of any healthy, long-lasting relationship of any kind, let alone a dynamic, and let alone a power exchange dynamic. They don't talk a lot about how to make sure that we're expressing the feelings and actively listening to each other in order to resolve the conflicts in a constructive manner. And these are things that take time and effort, real investment into each other to actually make it happen. Okay. And we have to catch ourselves. We have to catch ourselves when we're not focused in on the reality. Because again, it's easy to go to the fantasy. It's real easy to go to the fantasy. I mean, as a Korean, it's real easy to go to the fantasy. When the Kiki Smurf messes up, and just put her under the whip and throw her in the dung sack, and tomorrow it'll be all great and gravy. Well, let me tell you something. You try giving the girl a whip and stick her in the dung sack. The next morning, let's see if she's really that excited to see you. It's probably not going to be the case, right? And so these are the little things we got to think of. Compromise. There's another one. A couple days ago, I did a live, and we were talking a lot about compromise, because every relationship involves two individuals, or three individuals, however many partners you have, but it involves human beings with very unique needs, very unique desires. Everybody has different preferences, and these all have to be taken into account when we're trying to build something that matters long term. We talked about finding middle ground and making sacrifices. These are all part of it, and the fantasies that we internalize and see online, in movies, in books, and so on and so forth, they don't ever show these parts of it. They don't show the work, the emotional work, okay, the emotional intimacy, the demands, the vulnerability, and God forbid, the self-awareness that we have to have. All the partners that are involved, the investment in understanding themselves, okay, that self-reflection, that internal work that no one seems to like to do because we don't want to know. I mean, the more of the shadow work that I do for myself, the more I'm like, damn, dude, you got some work to do, bro. And that's okay. Because as you start to understand that about yourself, you will be in a better position to have someone else in your life and to be more successful in that dynamic or that relationship, right? Um, they never talk about the lack of passion or the loss of passion, right? I have this thing that I always say, look, a lot of relationships fail over time, and you look at what people say. They say that half the marriages that don't work out, for example, are because of financial reasons. I never looked at, when I met Hillary, I never looked at the King's Smurf and said, "Ooh, I can't wait to fucking balance a checkbook with her. I'm so excited to do the energy bills with her." No, when I first saw the Kinky Smurf, let me tell you what I was thinking. It surely wasn't fucking energy bills. It might have been about some energy, but it wasn't about no goddamn energy bills. And when you're together a long time, if you don't think about it, if you don't focus on it, that passion, it goes away. It can slip away. It doesn't go away, but it can slip away. It can be forgotten about. I believe that if you had true hot passion for somebody, you're always going to probably have it, or always be somewhere there. I mean, if the Kinky Smurf left me tomorrow and married someone else 10 years from now, I'm still going to be trying to get inside. I mean, what are you doing? So but the fantasy never shows the fact that, hey, this isn't just last forever with no effort. You got to work on it. Okay. You have to, it requires creativity. It requires effort. It requires the acknowledgement that you have a part in it. One of the things I love the most is the little things. Like when I walk through the kitchen and the Kinky Smurf is doing something, I walk by, I pinch an ass, I smack an ass. I walk up and I put my hand on her neck. I mean, a million little things, small, quick things that if you on their own don't seem like a lot, but built up over time, these things matter, and it keeps that fire, right? Because that fire is important, and it takes work, it takes thought. It's real easy to start. What they don't tell you in the fantasy that you read about in the books or the movies is that when you had a long hard day at work and the offspring are screaming and everything else, at the end of the day, the last thing you might actually be thinking about is each other or your partners, you know? And that's just a critical thing to remember. But that takes effort. That takes time because you're tired and you're beat up after the day. You don't really want to do it, you know, but you need it. You have to. Somebody on the Facebook said, facts. My one and I we're like fucking magnets. Even when we hated each other, sometimes more when we hated each other. I do miss her, but I'm still breathing well. I don't know who you are, Facebook user, but keep breathing, man. Keep breathing. Don't ever forget it. And you're absolutely right. It's really in those times when you actually don't. Maybe you are in the heat of it. Maybe you are mad at each other, right? That's the time when it matters the fucking most. Because life is going to always throw external challenges at us. It's going to throw us unexpected challenges, anything from financial difficulties to health crisis. I mean, when you have to face these challenges, you want to face them together. It takes effort. It takes resilience. It takes resilience. That's a really good word, good way to put it. Um, yeah, I know who you were just because I know your story and I know how you speak. But um, it doesn't tell me, so I didn't want to just say, "Hey, Mike." But there's also a benefit in acknowledging the effort that's put in, especially from the partner. Your partner's going to notice, right? The partner always notices when you're not putting effort in, but they notice when you put effort in too. They notice when you realize that maybe you haven't been doing the right things too. And maybe that our life's been throwing a lot of challenges at the two of us or the three of us or however many of you are. Hopefully there's understanding between all the partners or the two partners that our challenges that we face, while sometimes are great, they're much easier to be handled if we're doing it together, right? But again, there's no way for us to say uh, that it's going to be easy. And I think that's for me. I keep saying it, but that's the biggest thing between the fantasy and the reality, because it's always going to be a major challenge. Okay, let's talk a little bit about realistic expectations as well. Okay, because fine, we all agree. Let's just agree. So I don't beat a dead horse here that these things take effort. But what about the expectations that we set for each other? Because that's going to be a big deal for us, right? That's always going to come back to bite us if we don't think about how our lives are really structured. I can set up. I've had a lot of rituals over the years with my slave in which, man, they just didn't work. There's no way. Well, they were beautiful on paper, or they sounded really fucking great, man. But when you try to implement them into real life, guess what? It creates more chaos. And what drew me to the BDSM, well, not BDSM really, but the power exchange lifestyles, um, it brought order to my chaos, if that makes sense to y'all. Okay. Because my life was chaotic. I'm chaotic. By nature, I'm somewhat chaotic. I am a strong willed uh, dominant person as a whole, not just in my power exchange dynamic, in every aspect of my life. And if you don't know how to control it, it just breeds fucking chaos. And power exchange and BDSM and things that I read that really brought a lot of order to it. But then yet, I could find myself sometimes really getting out there with my rituals because I wanted to go as deep. And again, that was me trying to find a way to unwind some fantasy that I've come across and not taking into consideration real life. Now, I'm not saying that every part of every fantasy isn't possible, because it absolutely is. There's a lot of parts of my life that I'll be honest with you, I swear to God, it is like a fantasy, you know. And I can tell you that I don't have many. I have a lot of people in my life. Um, I have a lot of people in my life, and I don't have one of them that doesn't envy the relationship that I have with the Kinky Smurf. It's pretty fucking fantastic, and a lot of times it's kind of like, hey, that makes it even harder sometimes. By the way, sometimes I just think I'm just a goddamn king, a king who just has no boundaries at all, and I have to be mindful. We have to be mindful of that. Greater resilience is going to be something that has to be a part of any dynamic, because we're going to face these challenges. We're going to come across things that just kind of rock our world a little bit that we can't believe happened, and don't run from it. uh, don't run from it. Face it head on. I was reading this. Someone says expectations often lead to disappointment. They're only disappointment if the expectation that wasn't met wasn't continued to be worked on. Right? We're all going to fail, but there's a reason. Why did we have the expectation in the first place? Is the first question I would ask. Then I would ask, how does it benefit one or more of the partners involved? And if both of those things are important and the growth that it leads to are important, then the expectation is fine. The disappointment only comes when we give up. The disappointment only comes, my man, when we quit. Then you can be fucking disappointed. But until then, you shouldn't have disappointment. It just tells you, gives you more to fight for. Let me go over here to the Moan app, uh, see if we got anything in the comments. See who's in here with us. Sir, gotta need some glasses. Sir Locked Out, Bob Brown, ER Spark, my sexy slave. She's still with us. Shy. What's up, Shy? Bougie. Miss B's in the house. Dianthus and Okie. What's up, you guys? Let's see if we got anything in the thing here. Also, just because she's perfect for you doesn't mean she's someone else's perfect sub. Not all subs are perfect fit for all. Dude, that's exactly it. Dianthus, that's a perfect. That's exactly not a look. Very rarely, right? Let's face it. I mean, if everyone was just perfect for each other, well, we'd be in pretty deep water, you know. And let me say this too. Let me say this too. You hear the fake dom and the fake sub thing being thrown around so much, you know, and there's absolutely fakes out there. I'm not gonna say there isn't, but there's no way that there's that many because then every time a relationship breaks up or a dynamic doesn't work out, you hear the fake sub. No, they just want the right dom for you. They just want the right sub for you. And we gotta remember, we gotta take ownership in the fact that did we vet properly? Every failed opportunity, every failed dynamic should be teaching you to vet better, to understand yourself. And that's a good. I think I'm going to do one of these on that topic because the self exploration is most important because you cannot vet properly if you don't know who the hell you are, if you don't know what you want truly, if you don't know really what you're looking for. And you got to remember, we grow. Someone who was perfect for you 5 years ago may not always be perfect for you because you grow. They grow. And sometimes you grow apart in what you want, right? Shit, it happens. It's not some damn mystery. You can't risk, with growth, you're gonna risk the fact that something might change in you. Hopefully, as you grow, your partners grow with you and you don't grow too far apart or the growth doesn't become too wide to where you can't make this make it continue to happen. But sometimes it doesn't. Be adults and own it, right? ER Spark says, how can you be chaotic and manage someone else? I feel like that would be so much work or stress. Well, I can tell you this much. If you don't know how to control your chaos, you're goddamn right it is. If you don't know how to control the chaos that's in your mind, it's in your body and your soul, if you don't know how to control the chaos that you create around you, if you're not, you know, thoughtful of it and cautious of it, ER Spark, you're absolutely right. It makes life 10 times harder than it has to be. Power Exchange helped me understand it because what Power Exchange did for me and learning that is it allowed me to think about every aspect of how I feel about everything. And when ER Spark, when I say everything, I mean everything. I account for from the simplest of scenarios to the most extreme of scenarios, and I have protocols for them. Those protocols is what brought the order to my life, allowing me myself to sit down and really think about who I was, what I thought about things, what I wanted out of a situation, no matter what it is, from financial situations to health situations to the way I want my shit put in the cabinets when the groceries come home. Every little detail of my life has been thought about and a protocol has been put into place. And when something comes up that hasn't been thought about it, I no longer have to worry about if that's going to provide chaos or give chaos to my life. What I do now is simply analyze the situation and put a protocol in place. So if it ever happens again, there's a very systematic, straightforward way that we're going to handle this. That's how it is. Let's see what we got here. So it was good to touch on that because it's all about growth. Someone who never makes a mistake, never really did anything. Never did anything at all. Yep, that's a famous quote. That's absolutely sure. And usually someone who never makes a mistake is just lying to themselves. That structure and protocol is so necessary, and so many subs and brats secretly crave it. I think a lot of people crave structure. Dominance, crave the ability to create their own structure in their own lives according to the way they want it. But in that situation, the dominant has to remember the difference between the fantasy and the reality to make sure that the protocols and the structure that they're creating actually works in real life, actually works in the day-to-day operation of your life, in your partner's life, right? All right, let's see here. If we have any other questions, I'm going to open it up. That's about all I got. I will lead this to say that this. Someone earlier said expectation, the thing about expectations. Unrealistic expectations can lead to disappointment, absolutely. But it's crucial to recognize that genuine effort, compromise and dedication, embracing the ideas that we so much fall in love with, but also grounded in the honest facts to ourselves and to our partners that this is going to require a tremendous amount of work and effort with resilience will absolutely lead to very satisfying and long-term enduring dynamics. And I just hope that everyone who's new, everyone who's new that comes into the lifestyle, for a lot of us here, I know that I'm looking at the names that are here. I mean, these are experienced folks, and you guys already know this. But if you come into FTK, and you are new and you listen to this, please, that's my biggest thing I want you to take away from this 30-minute talk is understand yourself and who you are, man, and always ask yourself what part of this doesn't really work in reality, and what is this is just fantasy being exploited to maybe escape reality, and that's not what we're here for, right? Sometimes it is, but it's in a controlled environment. All right, I'm gonna check the chats one more time. I see nothing. All right, thank you guys very much for coming. I will see you next week with a couple more. I'll try to, like I said, try to do these every week, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I won't always be able to do them live. So when I can't do them live, I will definitely make sure that I try to record them and pop them up on the YouTube and then Free the Kink. Thanks again, you guys. Have a fantastic night. Appreciate y'all.